Sanmonan, my name is Mudinda Mbewana, and welcome to the Chosen Generation. Do you buy or sell pirated goods? Do you even download music for free online? How do you feel about it? Are you guilty, or is your conscience already seared? To help us discuss this issue a little further, I'm joined by a few special guests who will share their perspective on piracy. Joining us today, we have SIPHO KALENI, who is a gospel artist. We also have Brother Dumsani Mutsamai, who is an entertainment lawyer, I should say. Last but not least, we are joined by Brother Blake Ngumalo, who is a sound engineer. You can share your views with us. The hashtag to use is TCG on SID. Let us know what you think about this issue. It's now time to go straight into the conversation.
Well, I believe piracy is basically, maybe I'll try to pull it on a layman term, to copy something without a legal permission. Okay, basically, for example, if I'm an artist, right, and let's say I produce music, I definitely want people to buy my music so that I can still make a living and continue making music. But then if we have people outside to, committing piracy and doing piracy, then it stops that from happening. Then we get people that no longer make a living out of it. You understand? There's a whole lot of people that are within this thing. And so now if we continue or encourage piracy, there's certain fields that will end up being non-existent.
All right, gentlemen, let's go into the conversation. I'll start with you, Brother SIPHO. What is piracy theft? And how do people actually go about engaging in that form of theft?
Perhaps let me just start right here. So you've got a gospel artist called SIPHO KALENI, who has this beautiful song dropped in his spirit. He makes all efforts to ensure that this sound is properly recorded. And when I say properly recorded, I'm going to go out of my way to find a quality studio, professional, with a professional engineer who will put all of this together. I will go on also to just put together some BVs, backing vocalists, maybe musicians to also come through to put some music in. Once that is done, I then go further to ensure that the sound is properly mixed. Not just that, that is properly mastered. When the product is now there, SIPHO KALENI, remain in God's port. I then go to Sambro and say, please, ensure that you protect the rights of this music. Having done that, I now take my CD out. Here's what piracy is. After all this effort and money spent on the project, you, Mudinda, then come through and then say, wow, this song blesses me. Hallelujah. What an amazing song. How about I duplicate it? So the first element of piracy speaks to duplication. And when we speak about duplication, we're not just speaking about CDs only. In this digital age, we're also speaking about you sharing my music digitally with someone else. Hey, that song blesses me. How about you share it? Hey, that song is so powerful. And then the WhatsApp groups will start sharing all these things. What are you doing? Piracy. In a nutshell, you are a thief. Exodus chapter 20, thou shalt not steal. But the second element of piracy will be to sell that music, because you then get our brothers and sisters sometimes who will be standing at the corners and say, hey, I'm trying to make a living type of thing. Hey, how about you just support me? Whether they have a USB, the music put on a USB, or perhaps on a CDR, or whatever the case may be. But that is, in a nutshell, when we speak about piracy, those are the elements that we're talking about.
Yeah, Brother Dumsana, I want to bring you in here. SIPHO speaks about these people, usually unemployed, who will then begin to sell. Maybe let's start with that aspect. Sell the CDs on the streets to try and make some money. Some may say, look, job creation, I'm trying to make some money for my family. What are your views on that form of thinking?
It's illegal.
It's illegal.
It's illegal. The Copyright Act is very clear about it. You know, you can make a copy of a product for purposes of your own, maybe consumption at home and that kind of a setup. But once you start distributing it, and it doesn't even need to be commercial distribution.
Okay.
Once you start distributing it, in other words, have a wide range of people having access to it, it's illegal. Remember, this infringement takes place in two fronts. Firstly, there is the infringement of the sound recording. In other words, the person that owns that particular recording, as Kaleni quite correctly broke it down, who spend money, because there is a lot of money that is involved. And Kaleni will tell you that the more the money that you spend, the better even the quality. So there is the infringement in that aspect, but also there is the infringement of the copyright of the people that composed the work, which is now recorded. In other words, the composer, the producer, and the author, the person that wrote the lyric. So the infringement is in more fronts than just one. So it's illegal, and the Copyright Act is clear about it, that it's illegal, and there's repercussions for it.
That's very interesting. Maybe I should bring you in here, Blake, as a sound engineer, someone who works in the industry. You know, he's described how illegal it is. But perhaps people who do it do not really understand the impact that it has on someone, even the sound engineer. Maybe you can clarify for the viewers, how does it affect you when people are making money out of your product without you benefiting?
Well, you'd say that sound engineers don't get royalties paid, but the more the artist makes, the more they're willing to pay. The more they're willing to go ahead. I mean, for example, as a sound engineer, and especially someone who is able to work in any studio, the first thing I want to do for an artist to take them to the best studio that money can buy and get them the best. Because the sound quality is not in the work that I put in alone, but the equipment that is being used, and that is expensive. The more money you spend in the equipment, the better the sound quality is. And all of that, I mean, you spend thousands and thousands of rand putting into your recording only for a person to take it and send it on via WhatsApp. That's unfair. And also, who dies? It is us, the engineers, the people who are doing it as a living.
That's very interesting. Maybe, Brother SIPHO, as a gospel artist, I should bring this aspect also. Look, the gospel music is about Jesus. People need to be saved.
Hallelujah.
I mean, if I take your CD and someone else is blessed and they turn to the Lord, I mean, what's wrong with that?
The gospel is expensive.
Yes.
Okay.
People think that the gospel is cheap.
Yes.
For us to be even sitting on this platform, there's a lot of money that goes into this production. The excellence that you see in terms of camera work, in terms of lighting, the crew in the background, the research that has gone through, for you to even be sitting there, you are expensive product as it is. So for us to get to say, no, but Jesus is free, it's not true. There's no truth in that. For the gospel to even reach millions upon millions, according to Revelation chapter 14, verse number 6 through to 12, you still need a lot of money to pump into that, to make that possible. So when people start sharing things in the name of, but Jesus things are free, but it's not free. I mean, think about it. Here's Jesus teaching at the Mount, right? There are 5,000 men and their children and women. The miracle took place, right, to duplicate that which was the 2 fish as well as bread, which was available. But it took still that young boy to bring the fish. Somebody had to pay for the bread. Somebody had to pay for the fish. Don't make me preach. There is nothing that is free when it comes to the gospel. Absolutely. It takes a sacrifice. It takes a sacrifice. People have to dig deep to get the product out. You're looking at the Bible there, sitting there. That didn't just happen.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody had to sit down, write that, print the pages, package it, send it by courier to some space called Irene in Pretoria in order for you to have the Bible sitting next to you. This is expensive.
Oh, wow. There's more that we need to discuss. But let's our viewers at home, please share your views with us. The hashtag TCG on SID. What do you think? Are you pirating music? Let's talk about it after the break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Chosen Generation. We are still talking about piracy. Don't forget the hashtag TCG on SID. Let us know what you think about this subject. We really love hearing from you. Now, back to the conversation. Let me bring you in here, Brother Dumsani. Perhaps I have a two-pronged question. The first part of the question, from an entertainment lawyer's perspective, do you think that the consumers have any insight into, the struggles that go into producing the product that they enjoy? That's the first part of the question. The second part of the question, is there any protection for artists out there? How can they protect their sweat and tears in the current society in South Africa?
Look, there is certainly awareness. Whether it's enough, I guess it's talk for another day. I know, for example, the recording industry of South Africa, RISA, have a segment that specializes on anti-piracy and basically making people aware that what they're doing is piracy. I know, for example, Ubabum Zwakembul used to drive a campaign where they will go down to Fortsburg, Johannesburg, goes to these places where they will confiscate CDs and all that. So the awareness is there, but whether it's enough, I wouldn't know. But really, I wouldn't want to believe that people don't know that there's someone that spent money to be able to produce a product. I think awareness is there, maybe not enough, but it's certainly there that it is wrong. But in terms of how much is involved in putting a product, I personally, and in my experience of working with musicians, people still don't appreciate what my co-panelists were talking about here in terms of the expense of making music. They don't. They just think, you are talented. You blessed us. Let's share this blessing. And coming to your second question, the protection, there's two-pronged. So I'll go to, you remember my introductory remark, that there is also piracy when you infringe the composition right, the right of composing. So what then you do, as KALENI mentioned, Samro, you make sure that your songs are notified so that if someone else pirates that song, you can be able to go to those organizations. But once again, and I must be careful here, I work with this organization a lot, to what extent that becomes enforceable, it's because, anything that is law, unless people strongly believe that if I do it, I'll be in trouble, they'll continue to do it. So people continue to do other people's songs without any repercussions. People continue to pirate people's sound recording without much repercussions. There is noise there in the media about it and all that, but unless we know of a person that spent time in jail for piracy, it's not deterrent enough.
Yeah, that's so true. Maybe Blake, I can bring you in. One of the motivations for this, someone is thinking, watching and saying, you know what, I would be willing to fund this or buy the music, but it's just so expensive. I can't afford to do this. And that's why I'm buying the copy, because I want the blessing, but I can't afford it. What is your rebuttal to that kind of thinking?
Well, look at the gospel itself and how it's spread. Mr. KALENI said that it's expensive. It's true when they say that the gospel is free, right? But it's not cheap. Correct. That means for you to have received it for free, someone else paid for it. So if we as Christians were to love our neighbor as we love ourselves, what we would do is say, okay, there's this new CD that is out. Okay, let me buy 5 copies, and then those other 4 copies that have been bought, licensed, I give them to someone else to bless them. So I've sponsored the gospel there. Okay. So that's how it works. Right.
That's very interesting. Maybe, SIPHO, I can bring you in here. What are we really saying? If I am running a Sabbath school program at church, and I want to have a feature, and I play your music there, am I wrong to do that? I'm not making money out of it. I'm just trying to, bring the spirit into the church.
So there are 2 things that must happen. The first thing is that if you don't want to pay, then come to SIPHO KALENI and say, I'm requesting for permission to use your music. In this context, I am not going to make profit out of it. But if you can give me permission, I will use it for 1, 2, 3, 4. Or you can then notify a collecting society like your Sambro, who will say for any music that gets played publicly, whether it's restaurant, whether it's church, whether it's a park somewhere, or background music at the airport, whatever the case may be, then you will pay a certain fee for that. I mean, when we speak even around media, for a station like Adventist World Radio, SID Media, we still need to register with companies, collection societies, who are going to say, right, Capasso says, right, for us and Sambro to give you licensing to be able to just broadcast the music, this is what you will pay.
Okay.
In return, we will then take that amount and allocate it accordingly to the artists that you have played accordingly in your station. You can't have a situation where we say we are blessed, but we are not willing to comply with the law. Dare I say that then we become hypocrites. To be people who say, I am willing to be blessed at somebody else's cost.
Yeah. No, that's really powerful. Brother Blake, Brother SIPHO is making a point here about asking permission from the artist before you use their things. Are there other permissions that one needs to take to ensure that you can use something legally for whatever enjoyment or whatever you want to use the music for?
Yes, yet no, there are many ways of doing music and playing music with getting permission. One of them is that aggregators for online music have a system where you register your music as an artist. And when it is registered, whenever that recording is played in a video, it is registered. And then from there, you can claim that copyright. It will add that copyright claim onto that YouTube or Facebook or Instagram video. That way, they add ads. Then it generates money for the artist. So that way, if you do not have access to Mr. KALENI, that is another way to play his music during your online service and make sure that he still has money.
That's very interesting. Well, I think this is a great place to take a break before we go into other issues. Viewers at home, the hashtag is TCG on SID. Let us know what you think about this issue. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Chosen Generation. We are still talking about piracy. And please don't forget, we value your contributions to this discussion. And so the hashtag is TCG on SID. Let us know what you think about this subject. Brother Dumsani, let me bring you in here. Before the break in the previous segment, we were talking about the perceived expense of music. Is that a rumor or is it really true that music is expensive?
In fact, that's the thing. You know, I don't think people really take the time to even investigate how affordable it will be to buy music legally now in the era of digital. Because actually it is, you know, and it's a product of people being spoiled, really. For example, there is, and I will mention names, there is this notorious site, Fakaza. And virtually everyone, when they want music, they think Fakaza is the place to go because Fakaza, you don't pay anything. And they don't spend the time to say, if I was not buying music through Fakaza, for instance, where else would I be buying it and what would it cost me? You'll be surprised that most of the streaming platforms for music actually not even that expensive, hey? Your Spotify, your Apple Music, your Deezer, they're not. The packages that you get there, at the average, you find it's about 60 rands a month to access any music. In fact, with no matter how many times you want to stream it. And you'll find that there's packages, there's family packages where you'll pay a little bit more, like about 80 rands, but you can allow 10 members of your family to have access to the account. You have student discounts where, for example, with Spotify, you can pay 30 rand if you're a student and access music. So actually, you know, is this whole thing of saying, I must do this thing, you know, the Matala side because it's cheaper, only to find that the straight way wasn't going to be expensive, to begin with. So to answer your question directly, it's actually not even that expensive to them. And I want to go back to the question that you asked, Kalen, if you allow me. Streams, by their very nature, are not paying much for the artists. They're not. I don't know if you know, but for streams to make sense to an artist, you've got to stream many times. In the past, when we were selling CDs, you know that the CD already has 10, 11 songs. So those are sold. Now we have a choice of picking a song. And for it to end, and I know this thing because part of my work involves interpreting statements for artists who will go to record labels and complain that they're being, and we're talking cents. Now you can imagine, you are robbing this artist. And if you were not robbing and doing it the right way, you will have had to do it a lot. So you can imagine it's a double robbery because already effectively they're being robbed because you need a lot of streams for it to make sense. You can imagine if you're not streaming at all. It then happens that these artists continue to die poor. In fact, we are the first one to complain to say, what's one hapus Banban? They used to make good music. You killed them.
I know this is a criminal offense, beloved. Maybe I should bring you here, Brother SIPHO. I mean, this thing of piracy, it started way back in the, my 2000 won't know what cassettes are, but in the days of cassettes, you know, where you copy and you pass.
Sure.
Why is there hullabaloo all of a sudden?
You see, it was a problem back then.
Okay.
It was a problem back then. We didn't want to acknowledge it.
Okay.
Right? Obviously, with more knowledge comes more empowerment. And what Mutsamai referred to earlier on is very critical. That if we are empowered through programs like the Chosen Generation on these things and much more, we are able to make sober decisions on what to do going further. So if you see somebody sharing music with you, whether on the family WhatsApp group or church WhatsApp group, or perhaps you are in some devotional setup, ensure that you get to say to them, guys, we are killing somebody's career. Be the first one to say, I'm advocating for people to do this, right? To stop these type of activities. So let's start there. Whether it happened 20 years ago or 25 years ago, it still does not make it right. It doesn't make it right. And perhaps on the same breath, let me just appreciate everyone. Perhaps, can I move to that camera? There you go now. I just want to appreciate everyone who's doing the right thing. By you downloading the music correctly, you are putting bread in somebody's table. Some family is taken care of by you doing the right thing. And to my brothers and sisters who are blessed by our music, do the right thing. You can't be blessed from being a thief.
So,
if I need to put it lightly.
But I really understand where that's coming from. We are really taking away from people who have this talent. And maybe I should bring you in, Blake, here on this question. I think Brother SIPHO has already alluded to that, but people don't understand why it's so disrespectful to use someone's music without their permission. I mean, particularly whatever kind of music, they don't get it. As long as I'm enjoying, I don't understand how offensive it is to the musician or to the person who's creating. Maybe you can share some light into that aspect of the creators.
Look, in the book of Job, we see Satan going to heaven. And he's there walking boldly. He's like, I own the world. And God's like, nah, you don't. There's one guy that is mine. He's like, no, it's because you protect him. I need permission to get in there. He needs permission, to get in there.
Correct.
You see, if God himself, the king of the universe, who owns everything, even us, needs our permission to get into our lives, how much more you to your brother? God, the Bible says, love the Lord your God.
Come on, preach it.
And it says, love your neighbors, you love yourself.
Yes, sir.
And if you love your neighbors, you love yourself. At the very least, ask for permission.
Oh, that's very interesting. Ask for permission, Brother Dumsani. Maybe we can bring in another legal aspect to this, and that's on the issue of protection. Are there anything else or any other steps or other measures that artists can do to ensure that their product is protected? I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so it goes back to what I mentioned earlier, registering your works to make with the different collecting societies, so that if anyone does, and I need to clarify this thing and Blake's touched on it earlier on. It's not about not sharing music. It's not about not doing someone else's music, but it's getting permission. Because what does getting the permission do? It makes sure that if there is any financial gains that should derive from it, that financial gain goes to the correct person. So the protection that is there, and I'm gonna touch on, for example, we've been talking a lot about sharing music in the audio formats, for example, in WhatsApps and all that. But also, did you know that before a church can use somebody's song and project it up there for someone else to sing it, and if that song has been written by someone, they need permission?
They do.
And most churches don't know this. They have their sound engineering, usually they call it the media team.
Right.
They're very creative. They come up with these songs. Before you know it, KALENI's latest release has been projected. We don't know it at first, KALENI, but we learn it. Next thing you visit us, we'll shock you, we'll sing your song. But we never got permission from him.
Okay.
So there are those societies then that ensure that when you have registered the song with them, the church then gets licensed by those societies. They pay royalties to Samro and Kapaso. That's how then KALENI then gets. But then another debate, which will need another session like this, is that do the churches indeed pay those royalties to Samro and all those? Another day.
Do they pay? Wow, okay. I don't know what has happened to the time. We've run out of time, but I would like to thank you so much for availing yourself. I think this is an important discussion. So thank you so much.
We just the surface.
We just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
So really, I appreciate that you availed yourself for this discussion. And maybe to our viewers at home, we'd like to thank you for allowing us into your space. And we really hope that next time you'll be joining us again. And perhaps maybe a final word. Jesus said in the book of Luke that a laborer is worth his wages. And so let us, listen and heed the voice of the Savior, because he's the one who saves, who sanctifies and satisfies. Again, to the viewers, the hashtag TCG on SID. Let us know what you think about this subject. And don't forget also to subscribe our YouTube channel, the SID Media. Please, we really enjoyed having you here. And that's it from the team. See you again next week. Goodbye.